Welcome to the Chase Down Podcast, part of the Cavs media family. I'm your host, Justin Rowan. The Chase Down is presented by Fubo, the official streaming partner of the Cavs. Watch over 350 channels of live sports and TV, including FanDuel Sports Network without cable. There's no cost and no commitment. Try for free at FuboTV.com/Cavs. Well, the Cavs took care of business against the Utah Jazz, even though that game was a little closer than it needed to be for the majority of it. And then they dropped the ball against the Los Angeles Lakers, one of the few remaining games against a top team with a winning percentage, above 500, and they weren't able to get it done. Joining me today to discuss what it all means is my co-host Carter Rodriguez. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm sleepy. It was a 10:30 local time start, or Eastern time start was hard on the spirit for your boy. But nevertheless, we persevere. Those late night games where the team doesn't play well, I think, are the hardest ones to watch as a fan. And I think I'm disappointed, to be sure, with the outcome. You just wanted to see them come out and continue to be world beaters with Jared Allen back in the lineup, even though Sam Merrill missed, and obviously you're still missing Dean and Jalen, so you're missing a big group of your wing contingent. So I didn't think this would be an easy game by any means. LA's in great form, and most of our best Luka stoppers were not available. But nevertheless, I just think it was a very disappointing outcome, especially after they started as well as they did on like an 8-2 run or something like that. Just felt like the bigs were absolutely cooking. Just one of those games, man.
I'll say this. We've talked about many times how a Friday game, I don't need it to be close and competitive. That's when I'd love a blowout win. I want a fun game after a week of hard work. Just give me popcorn. Give me something to enjoy here. When you have a West Coast loss, I appreciate when it's of this variety where it's a bit of a blowout. It's not a nail biter, because when it's a nail biter and it comes down to the wire and it's like they could win, maybe they don't, and you lose
You're
on a
all
buzzer
jacked
beat or
up
something,
and can't get to sleep.
I'm up for another 2-3 hours. And I'm involved in the discourse. Like, give me a blowout win or give me a blowout loss, and I'll take it. So from that perspective, it was good. I know I've seen some of the discourse, people saying, well, really want to stay on that 1-4 side of the bracket, so it's good. I've even seen some people say that it was intentional, which to me is absolutely nonsensical. I don't think there was any chance in the world that was the case.
Of course, the Knicks are keeping it close on a 3-game losing streak.
Yeah, I think they are down in the dumps and pretty discouraged as well when I look at some of that Knicks discourse. But I'll say this.
Yeah, but we don't have a Ben Stiller to make a rousing post about how he's going to support the fellas through it. We are the Ben Stiller, Justin. This is a disaster.
He's all hopped up on those Stilly's soda pops and still encouraged. But I'll say this, man. Like, when it comes to the bracket discussion, let's actually start there, because I find some of this discourse just wild. Like, I don't understand the people that are completely, like, I understand being fearful of Boston and feeling like, that's the top team in the Eastern Conference, because that is the bar. That is the best team in the Eastern Conference. But people that, one, think that the Detroit side is just some, free pass to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think that is necessarily the right way to look at that, particularly if the Cavs are going to struggle on both ends of the court the way that they are. And even if it was a free path to the Eastern Conference Finals, I wouldn't be taking any solace in some Atlanta Hawks lucky run to the Eastern Conference Finals if we're not competitive in that series. And I don't mind where the Cavs end up. I don't mind if we play Boston in the second round. A competitive second round series against the Boston Celtics would mean more to me in understanding how close this team is than getting absolutely smoked by them in the Eastern Conference Finals. I would not consider that to be progress if we got smoked in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think there's maybe even an argument that, the earlier you play Boston, one, Jason Tatum's going to have less time to get his legs under him. Boston has injury concerns of their own. Jaylen Brown's now dealing with Achilles tendonitis. And two, we've had trouble staying healthy. Donovan's broken down in the playoffs and things like that. Like, let's try to get them when we're still at our best and are least worn down. So I think there's maybe a case for that. But regardless of when you play them, I care more about our actual form than trying to, fudge the numbers and end up on some side of the bracket to get some, feel good step forward. That doesn't mean anything. How competitive you actually are in that series matters way more than when that series occurs.
I'm with you, to be very, very clear. And I don't think the Cavs are politicking.
Oh,
I think they're
no.
I think they're struggling to find themselves and dealing with even more health issues, even more challenges. As the season's worn on, and played a buzzsaw Lakers team that's beating a lot of teams right now. But if I may advocate on behalf of the Devil and say why that path in the 4 seed might be a little better if you're among those that feel better about playing a Pistons team in the second round for myriad matchup reasons than playing a Celtics team in the second round. This is a team that has so little time together that conceptually, the deeper you get into the playoffs, the better we should be.
True.
The more together we should be. Because my big takeaway from this game was just that, like, I feel like I'm at a weird crossroads where I don't think that this team has shown me championship form this season.
No.
They have their point differential of +4 is like a very like not true blue title contender kind of differential. Their best run came in end of January, early February. Mostly beating up on the dregs of the league, not exclusively, but mostly. And since the trade, we just don't have a lot of like marquee wins to put to our name, and the wins we do have are a 4-point win against Brooklyn, having to play your starters down the stretch as Utah has benched Kyle Filipowski on Monday night,
which was a bit of a double-edged sword, because I will say, like, Filipowski's come a long way on the offensive end. I actually think he's turning into quite a player there. He's giving up a lot on the defensive end. So if you want
the fact that they're like, we got to get Filipowski out of here.
No, the proper strategy would have been tell the guards not to pass to him on offense, but we're going to keep him out there for defense.
Well, nevertheless, the point is, we're in a weird spot where I look at the talent on this team. I look at what I know about basketball and the strengths and weaknesses of these players, and then I look at the strengths and weaknesses of the rest of the teams in the East, and I just look at that and I say, and my brain wants to say, this team should still be able to make the finals if everything breaks right and if they find themselves. But my takeaway from the Lakers game is that I just need to be okay knowing I'm not going to get to know. Like, it doesn't seem like they're much closer to putting it together in that way. And there's, again, myriad reasons for that. But Donovan is in quite the slump. You have some great stuff on Pace that I won't spoil. But, they're still learning how to integrate Harden. Jarrett, Chris Fedor had a report Jared's knee is still hurting, which is not what you want to hear.
It's going to be something that's going to be need to be managed the rest of the regular season at the very least. Like, and tendonitis is a thing that
it's a tricky thing. But like that, we're not probably going to get to see them get a lot of reps with Jarrett while they manage that. We don't know.
The plus side of that is, if there's one player on the roster that needs less reps with this group than just about anybody, it's Jarrett Allen.
Sure.
Like, what
sure,
he
but
does
I think it's the rest
standpoint.
of the group that needs the reps, not Jarrett. They need the reps with him.
Yeah, true.
And then we don't know if Jalen and Dean are coming back after this road trip. Sometimes people see those press releases that say, "Hey, they're going to be out this road trip," and you think maybe that means they'll be back when we host Indy on April 5th. Maybe, we don't know.
Yeah. What it normally is hey, we're traveling for this stretch of time. We
Just
don't
so
feel
you
like
know,
there's
they ain't coming.
we don't feel like there's a realistic chance that they could play, like that they get to like game time decision type status for any of these games. So because of that, it's more beneficial and is going to give them a better chance of returning after this stretch if they stay home, if they stay with our trainers, if we're able to
Yeah.
monitor their progress in ways we just wouldn't be able to on the road.
Yeah. But the long and short of the situation is they're not healthy enough and they're not playing well enough with the guys that are there. You know,
Yeah.
even the guys that we were really great parts of the season, guys like Naquan Tomlin, who you're like, man, what a great find we have. He's like, not playing regular rotation minutes even now, with all the guys out and with a lot of the bigs, and with Jared on a minutes restriction and stuff like that. You don't have the Jalen to turn to. You don't have, Max is playing up and down right now. That's just the way it is. And I just think I don't think it's stupid to believe that this team could make some noise. Because again,
of course not.
there's a logical part of my brain that like is just evaluating the rosters, evaluating the talent level, and says this team can beat anyone. But like I do think right now this team could lose to anyone. And I think that's just representative of all those challenges that they have to work through. Some of them are on court things, but and to give them a little grace, like it's hard to set these great habits when you're missing so many, entire position groups at a time. It's hard for people to settle into their very specific roles and know exactly how much they need to help, when they need to dig, when they need to switch. And that's not to let people off the hook, because like the effort and attention to detail is still very bad in some spots defensively. I mean, LA got whatever they wanted on just about any possession last night. And if Utah didn't have that hard of a time either.
No, they did not.
But like, again, we're just not, we're not seeing it right now. And like, I think I'm at the point now where it's like, with this much runway, even if they can fix the effort, detail, scheme stuff, like we're still going to see such a piecemeal roster. We're just not going to get good data.
Yeah, you're not. And I think this is part of, one, us being intellectually honest with how we view the game, right? Like we think that the regular season matters. And two, bit of a learning curve, right? Where this team really tried to prove a lot in the regular season in years past, right? And we were trying to take lessons from that and what's going to translate to the playoffs. Whereas what we're dealing with right now is a lot of faith, relatively speaking, right? Because if you look at games against teams with a winning record since the All-Star break, the only one that they just flat out won against was the New York Knicks. Great win. That felt really, really good. That's one of the teams that we measure ourselves against. The other ones that we've played multiple times, we lost the first and won the second. You're never going to feel good about that. Detroit lost the first, won the second. Orlando lost the first, won the second. Miami, same thing. Boston, we lost against. LA, we lost against. Those are the only teams that we've played that have a winning record. So in this stretch where the hope was, hey, you have one of the easiest schedules in the NBA after the All-Star break, right? You're going to have an opportunity to work on some stuff against losing teams. And then hopefully in these measuring stick games, when you're playing tougher competition, you're going to be able to test some of that, right? You're able to gain some growth here. We haven't seen that. We've seen them play down to their competition and then have some of these games versus really good teams or even just good teams or playoff teams and no show. So that's always going to lead to a little bit of frustration and a little bit of concern. But it goes back to the start of the season where, we said, this is tough to evaluate until we see kind of that buy-in and until we see that effort level. That just doesn't seem to be there. And we've talked about it a million times before. March is the least valuable month from a data standpoint, right? And I think
the correlation to success or failure just isn't strong historically.
And I think this team knows that. I think this team knows, Donovan had the quote at the start of the year saying we could go 82-0 and no one would care. Like, I think that mentality has been ingrained in this team. And James Harden is certainly one of those guys that knows that March basketball doesn't really matter to the same extent. So I think what we are trying to get ourselves into that mentality of is there's going to be a switch that gets flipped here, right? Like there is going to be that buy-in component that isn't there to the same extent.
And
we did see that. We saw that, in a glimpse after the trade deadline and after those transactions where it's like, hey, this is new. This is exciting. I've got this level of buy-in, right? Like they talked about it. Kenny talked about it. Donovan talked about it, right? Like, hey, I got this new level of buy-in. So when I see, Donovan or James not necessarily playing with that same level of engagement, it like from a leadership standpoint, it's tough for me to feel like everyone else, should be raising their level, right? Like it's on them, they have confidence that they're going to be able to pull this off. So you kind of have to trust in them knowing what these guys have accomplished in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, and like I just think the last time we had a switch flip team, it just happened to have the greatest player, in my opinion, in the history of the sport on it.
Yeah.
And that changes your math. That changes your level of trust and comfort level. And I do think it's important to remind ourselves we weren't comfortable then. We didn't like it then. No. I remember Golden State beating us by like 34 on MLK Day in 2015-16, and just me feeling like this team just doesn't have the attention to detail that they need to ever beat this team. So we might get to the finals, but like they're just too much of like they're anathema to what we do. Like I remember having these conversations with you, and not on the podcast because thank God we hadn't started yet. But
in that MLK game, like Cavs had their guys, right? Like it's a little different than the situation where we're currently in, where Donovan's working his way back. You look at from a perimeter wing standpoint, we talked about Dean and Jalen being out and not having those bodies to throw at Luka. Luka was way too comfortable, right? Like nobody made him uncomfortable on the entire evening. But we only have 3 players that play on the perimeter that are above 80th percentile when it comes to perimeter isolation defense. None of them played. Sam's the third, right? And if you go back to last season where we actually had a good number of guys that profiled that way, Max was in that group, but Max doesn't have the lateral quickness right now. He's got burst, right? Like the up and down, getting up and down the court, having his legs on the jumper. Like you can tell he's done everything to stay in shape and be able to perform in that way. But that lateral quickness is going to take some damn time. To your point about, hey, maybe a little bit later could do us some good.
Yeah. So I was literally getting ready to make that point. Like maybe Max in the conference finals is a little different. And I gotta say, I did want to ask you this, just kind of in the macro, because like we have spent a lot of time this season contextualizing with injuries, while also, being pretty clear when we weren't thrilled with the team's play, and I would say the inverse when we did, even when they were losing games, like the Christmas game to the Knicks, one of the blown losses to Detroit. We've been like, okay, yeah, that's the way I want to see them play. And they lost that game, and sometimes you lose games in the NBA, but like the way they played is what I like to see. Are we still, me and you, undervaluing just how brutal the injuries have been? I did a little look. Spotrac does a great games missed tracker across the NBA. The Cavs have lost 259 games to injury. Among the top 8 teams in either conference, that they rank, they have the second most missed games. For a frame of reference, Boston has 109 missed games. The Knicks have 137. The Pistons have 149. The only team with more is actually, believe it or not, the OKC Thunder, who have 375 missed games. Now that's colored by their rookie Sorber has missed the entire season. And Nikola Topic also missed a healthy percentage of the season. And J-Dub has only played 30 games. Hartenstein's only played 40 games. But
what I'm hearing is Shea's going to win MVP again.
Probably. But that same site, and I tweeted this out if you want to go check it out, Spotrac, which tracks a lot of contracts and things like that. They also do the amount of like salary missed to basically account for a rookie that was never going to play for OKC in the first place, missing 82 games and counting towards that. And the Cavs, only one team is in front of the Cavs in terms of salary that sat out, and it's the Boston Celtics, because Jason Tatum missed most of the season. But if you look at the rest of their roster, almost everyone is on pace to hit 65, 70 games plus. So like that. So with all that context, and sorry, last bit of context. Again, the Cavs lost 259 games.
Welcome to the context down.
I know. Normally you do this work. The Cavs again have lost 259 so far this season, 46 million per Spotrac in terms of lost salary over the season. Last year they only missed 168 games and 19.6 million. And if you think about it, like 46 million, that's a max contract worth of missed time over the course of the season. So it does matter, and so with all that laid out, Justin, do you think we're still underrating because we're so interested in not being excusey, because we're so interested in the on-court product and trying to analyze what we're seeing with our eyes? Do you think there's a world in which we're under accounting for just how banged up they've been this year?
I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is that I don't think we've ever been judging them really from a regular season standpoint to the same extent, right? Like, because the goals are the postseason, and I think what we've been looking for is actionable data that can translate to the playoffs, right? I think the fact that this team's still going to win 50 games just goes to show how damn good this roster is and how they've been able to overcome that, because that was all really good data and context. But you have to remember, Jarrett Allen, in games that he played, had, broken fingers on both hands, right? And he was physically limited there. Evan Mobley playing through the calf stuff. Donovan Mitchell playing through, the soft tissue things that he's been dealing with since the All-Star break. There's been things that have limited the upside and ability to perform on court, even in games that these guys are playing. So I think it goes to show you just how damn high the floor is. And this is a team with a lot of depth, right? Like, even though you do run into these spots where, hey, a position group has kind of gone down a single time and all that, you'll run into those scenarios. It still has a lot of depth on this roster, right? And I think some of that can be attributed to most teams have maybe 2, maybe 3 guys that are capable of playing at an all-star level. You have some added insurance when you have 4 of those guys, right? But I don't think we've dwelled on what this team has and hasn't been able to accomplish in the regular season too much. I think we've been concerned about how it translates to the playoffs. And, this actually touches on a kind of insecurity that I have, because I do think there is truth to, hey, James Harden coming in has been able to unlock the bigs in a way that we haven't really seen, right? Like the chemistry of when he's being assertive, and I think that's an important qualifier, when he's being assertive and when he's using the bigs, he's one of the best passers of like the last 30, 40 years in utilizing bigs. I think there's truth to that. My concern and my insecurity when it comes to that conversation is, while that's true, has it been overstated or is it amplified to some extent because someone's always been out? Whereas last year we were collectively healthy and everyone was kind of sacrificing, and you didn't have this stretch where, Jarrett had 40 points in a game because he was always playing with Evan and Darius was available and Donovan was available. Whereas this year it's like, hey, we had this really good stretch where Darius was out of the lineup and Jalen Tyson absorbed all of this usage, and he was so damn good there. And we had this stretch where Evan was out and James was, Donovan missed some time too, and James was just running great pick and roll with Jarrett, and then Jarrett's out for a while, and now James is really feeding Evan the ball, and they have great chemistry together. And that's all well and good. But getting it all together at the same time, where guys know exactly when they need to step up, where they can sacrifice, where they can be assertive, and kind of get to that level, that I'm concerned we aren't going to be able to accomplish this season. That's something that we haven't seen, and that's something that frankly took time when this, the original core four was first put together, right? Figuring out who's going to eat when, and what the sacrifices, what the trade-offs are going to be. How are we going to integrate Max Strus into this lineup? Because we used to have incredibly low usage Isaac Okoro here, and that took basically a season. So for me, when the goals, the macro expectations are so high, that to me is kind of my insecurity and what I'm
well, that's
concerned
kind of
about more than
incongruous,
anything else.
right? Like
Yeah.
you either want to be like, we're working on figuring things out, but we got time and we feel really good about our long-term runway, or you want to be like, hey, we're going for it right effing now, and we're ready to take the plunge. And like those two things are not in sync right now. We don't have
Right.
those those two, you they're in kind of no man's land, and like those things might find themselves in sync over the course of a playoff run, but again, we're just not going to get to see it ahead of time.
Yeah, this isn't a team that has Zoom Workplace out on the court, man, because teams move fastest when everyone's in sync. Zoom Workplace keeps meetings, chats, documents, and more together, so your work flows like a perfect play. Keep work moving and zoom ahead with Zoom Workplace. There was conversation after the Jazz game where Evan Mobley was obviously fantastic, right? Season high in points. He was getting the touches, he was producing. And I do think there is a lot of truth to James feeding the bigs and being able to find that chemistry and all that sort of thing. But we have seen in this stretch, right, this post All-Star break stretch where it's, hey, Evan got one shot in the fourth quarter, or is not getting a lot of touches here, against tougher competition in these games that are closer to a playoff simulation. He's not always involved in the same way. And I think the Lakers game was a good example of that, right? We called him out after that first Orlando game where I felt Evan wasn't being assertive and he didn't want the ball. This Lakers game, I felt like it was a little bit more on the guards for abandoning the bigs altogether, because Evan Mobley on the season averages 34 front court touches a game. So that's when he touches the ball for the first time on a possession after already crossing half court. 34 times is the average. He got 15 against the Lakers. 15. And, he put up, what was it, 5 or 6 shots. He got to the free throw line once. So that's already 7 out of those 15 possessions. He's not turning down a lot of shots when you get that few possessions. And it's frustrating because what the Lakers did defensively, they can't go out there and switch like the Boston Celtics, right? Like we've seen switching defenses give the Cavs some trouble. We've also seen the teams give zone or give Cavs troubles with the zone. The Lakers went with a strong side zone for the majority of this game, and it created a wall that the Cavs just kind of ran up against over and over and over again. And when you're playing that kind of defense, whether it's switching or kind of the strong side zone, the way you beat that is you don't let it set up. You hit it with speed, right? That's what the Pacers did against our switching defense. Don't let them, set up the same way.
Don't let the shell take shape.
Don't let the shell take shape, or if it's starting to, swing it and have a quickly initiated action from the other side. When you have switching, right, what do? You hit it with some speed, and rather than a traditional screen set, you slip in a lot of those situations, right? Like that's where the Jalen Tyson and Evan Mobley kind of slip screens, that can be so potent against those defenses. The Cavs did not attack this defense with the necessary speed. They did not consistently utilize the bigs, even though it did bear fruit early in the game. And I thought they were once again kind of biting themselves in the foot against a defense that I think we're going to see stuff like this against a team like Boston.
Yeah, well, I was thinking watching the game, like for all the ways that I think James really diversifies our offense, makes us a little bit more playoff proof, I think, in terms of his ability to stand up to physicality, not get rushed, being able to, make these, continue to feed the bigs even in really, really tight spaces, and at weird angles. His size gives, opens up angles that we didn't have. Prior. Sorry, I'm blowing a tire here.
Yeah, that got emotional.
I was trying not to cough, but there it is.
I love what Harden's brought to the table too.
But
I feel
what I was going to say is this kind of matchup is the kind of matchup where you go, oh, we missed the water bug element. You know, we missed the weird jitteriness that Darius had, because like Donovan is a straight line physical player for the most part. He has a lot of craft, but I always like, I always compare him to an NFL running back. Like that's the way he likes to attack. And against this very set shell defense, you just saw the angles were just like a running back. Like the hole was closing before you could get to it. And
it was attacking a lot of set defenses, right?
And
it led to those
the
turnovers.
Cavs weren't shooting well, and they were missing Sam, who is their scariest shooter. They were missing Dean, who is, while I don't think he is a great shooter, does at least allow you to play a small ball lineup that has that. And then also missing Jalen, who has been a sniper for them. And
forced to run out some wonky lineups, right? Like Dennis Schroeder and Craig Porter Jr., Naquan Tomlin, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So like, but I think the weirdness and the almost too fast, too slow rhythm of Darius's game is really good against a Lakers team that has a hard time containing those kind of water bug guards. And while there will be matchups, James is much more beneficial playing slow and playing this like kind of ponderous game. That just plays right into what the Lakers were doing.
I agree with that. I don't think it's necessarily a death sentence. Like I think some of I
they
think
can just play better. Like
and they can play more forcefully, right? And I think some of what we see with this defense, it baits Harden into those step back attempts where there's not a lot of probing. And I really feel like we said this back when they had Darius, right? Like the offense is at its best when Darius is being assertive. He's putting the pressure on and he's kind of leading the offense, and it simplifies things for Donovan. He's not forced to initiate in that same way. I think the same thing is true of James, and that's going to be my big question here, because I think he has done so much to blend in and to be unselfish and to utilize the bigs, things like that. I think Harden needs to take the reins and stand out a little more than he's blending in these matchups, because I think even if you're doing it what's that?
Fit out? Should he fit out?
Fit out, James. Like I think even if you're doing it at a slower, more deliberate tempo, getting downhill, maybe we're getting double drag in there. Like we're doing different things to kind of manipulate the defense and get them out of those situations. But I think James needs to be the primary initiator, because if James is just floating and probing, Donovan's not going to do great against those set defenses where he's just kind of ramming his head against a wall, because that's what happened with the Lakers. And
by the way, sorry to interrupt, but this is where James not being as active of an off-ball player makes that job even harder, because if Donovan is isolating, but off ball, and this is where it hurts not having Sam, by the way. So there's a lot of factors here.
Yeah.
But like if you've got James running off a couple flare screens on the weak side to engage the back end defenders, and kind of create that extra bit of chaos, and the weak side is panicking, trying not to let James come free to the top of the arc while Donovan has it at the wing. Well, that really changes the math. If he's just spotting up, even if he's doing a small relocation here and there, the defense doesn't have to consider breaking the shell until Donovan makes it. And that just makes and I think that's a thing that if this coaching staff, if I were to guess, I'll bet this coaching staff is trying to figure out, well, how do we attack that shell when Donovan has the ball better?
Yeah.
Because now it's let worst pick and roll player try to get up a nice bucket. And I think that you can, like, I think that's where Sam guard screening or Max guard wing screens really help Donovan out, because he just gets that little extra step of space. And then he can just attack and get downhill. So I think that's something the coaching staff could maybe help Donovan out with especially while the jumper is missing in action.
To go back to your running back analogy, it's making sure that Donovan's not going up against the stack box, right?
Yep.
Like I think that's the primary thing, because when he's not able to apply his physicality, whether it's, a strong side zone that's walling things off and he's not able to kind of get through it, whether it's a really physical defender, right? We've seen him struggle in those matchups against Lou Dort, Andrew Nemhard, Dyson Daniels, OG Anunoby, those types of guys that he can't impose himself physically in the same way. Sometimes it leads to those, 3 of 15 type games from him.
Yeah, and the splits show it, by the way. He's down to 45% from the field in 16 games post All-Star break, down to 30% from 3 in those 16 games on 6.6 attempts a game. And, that's just not a recipe for this team feeling unbeatable.
Yeah, and so I do think a major component of that is James being more assertive, making sure that the offense is running through him to a
be a point guard
degree.
for Donovan too.
Right. And maybe some of it is, hey, James or Donovan throws a little entry pass to Evan Mobley at the nail, and we run some dribble handoff. We get them to grab the ball on the move and be able to initiate contact and things like that. Like, just finding those little things to get it going, right? I think that should be one of the goals here, because I do think this is the type of stuff you're going to see in the playoffs. Like, on the one hand, I don't think you're going to be challenged defensively the way the Lakers challenge you defensively by anybody in the Eastern Conference, right? Like, I think the size and unique passing ability of both Luka Doncic and LeBron James is something that nobody in the East can really replicate. Even Austin Reeves is a good playmaker as well, right? There's not a lot of teams that I worry about their size. It's basically the Boston Celtics. And even when it comes to the Boston Celtics, I want to get back to the point where we worry about being shot over instead of blown by, right? Like, let's get back.
It'd be nice to go back to that simple concern.
I think what the Cavs are able to do defensively, and the personnel that they have defensively available to them, suits up pretty well to defend the New York Knicks. Like, I think they can do a really good job on Jalen Brunson. If you're going to die from OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges initiating against you, you're not a serious team. You are not serious people. You have no business contending. And I feel good about our ability to defend Cat. I feel good about our ability to defend Detroit. Boston's going to be interesting, right? Like, I think that's going to be tricky. But from an offensive standpoint, Boston's real switch-heavy defense is something that the Cavs are going to have to play with tempo. They're going to have to play with purpose. They're going to have to blitz it. They're going to have to make sure that they are not set up and comfortable. And I think this is one of those regular season habits that is important. That is something to track going into the playoffs, because they're going to have to play with a purpose more than, hey, let's get out and run and things like that. No, it's about when you're crossing half, when you're attacking a half-court defense, doing everything just, a third of a beat quicker in order to create some chaos there. Because I worry about the offense.
Yeah. Right now I do, because when defenses shell up or switch, I just don't think this Cavs team is doing a great job. Frankly, with the exception of Jared Allen, who just murdered every single switch he got against the Lakers en route to another 18 points in 19 minutes.
Yeah. I think it was actually another 18 and 18. He showed Aiden, Aiden's kind of coming to the realization that, hey, maybe I should be high level Clint Capella. And Jared Allen's like, oh, buddy, there are levels to this. Watch me
game.
Drop step you and had the nice little lefty finish. Like, he was awesome. Like, the bigs, I'm not concerned about. Like, I think Jared and Evan have been playing really well.
I'm going to stop you, because I do think there are some concerns with Evan still, in terms of his willingness to dominate mismatches with decisiveness in a way that, because basically what you need to, if a team is switching on you.
To be clear, I was saying from an effort standpoint.
I know, but I think it's both. It's not just a get into it quicker. It's be decisive. It's be thoughtful, and it's also be nasty. And I think we're not seeing enough of any of that from this team right now, where Like, the point of attacking a switching defense, and the reason I'm worried about the offense right now, is because you can't just do pretty well against switches. You need to break their spirit and make them try something else. And until you get to that, because I think about that again. I'm going to keep referencing 2016. Think about how early on in that series, the Warriors were comfortable giving that switch. They'd give Steph up on a switch and say, "We trust our shell. We trust that Steph, by the metrics, is a pretty good switch defender." Same stuff we said about Darius for years.
It was literally the same thing. Yeah.
But the Cavs just hammered it and hammered it and hammered it until the Warriors said, "We can't do this anymore." And then they started fighting and pulling and grabbing JR as he went to screen and hard hedging and recovering.
It wore Steph down on offense the same way I think we would see Darius get worn down in those Boston games, where he held up well defensively. He stayed in front of Tatum, but you're going to lose a little bit on your legs when all of a sudden Steph's being switched on to LeBron or DG switched on to Tatum.
Yeah, the best thing we can do is make a team not do what they wanted to do. And I think this team, if they don't play with that level of decisiveness, because I think that's more important than pace. While pace matters, pace is a symptom of decisiveness to me. And if everyone is running every set with the level of intention and intensity that they should, then this team's offense should inspire no anxiety because they are loaded, man. Like, they have all the tools in the toolkit. We just need to see them put them together.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest question, right? Like, that is the reason why I still have reason for hope. But the confidence, we haven't had those confidence building wins as fans, and I think that's fair to acknowledge. But the biggest reason for hope is these pieces do fit together.
Yes,
these pieces, we know when they're clicking.
They're not perfect because no one is, but
right. Like, you're always going to make some of those trade-offs, and defense is a concern. And I have not been thrilled with the guards' defense, but I don't think it's fair to put it all on them either. Like, if you look at the losses since the All-Star break, the Cavs have a 124 defensive rating in those losses. Donovan and James together have a 123.7 defensive rating. That's slightly better than the team's overall. So it's not like, hey, when they're getting broken up or, when the bench pieces are in, all of a sudden we're playing better defense. It's not fair to put it all on them. Yes, they need to be better. Yes, the effort needs to be better. The attentiveness needs to be a whole lot better. But it is a collective thing. And I do think some of it comes down to health and personnel. And I am concerned about Max getting his lateral quickness back. I'm concerned about Jalen Tyson coming back from that toe injury, because I don't think that's a guy that has lateral quickness to spare. Like, when he was struggling defensively at the start of the season, that was a big part of the equation.
Maybe
it was a big part of it. And I think him continuing to get in better shape, but more than that, anticipating, right? Like, I'm going to kind of guess and read where a guy's going to go beforehand because I'm not able to react as quickly. I think that's what helped bridge the gap. But if you lose 10% quickness because you're coming back from that toe injury, man, like, is that going to be enough? I have all of those concerns. But when it comes to the offense, I do think this team locking in and playing with intent is capable of papering over some of that stuff. And, the playoffs, man, like, a potential series like a Eastern Conference Finals is like after almost a month and a half of playoff basketball, an actual time off, practices, film sessions, bigger rest between games. You can correct a lot of stuff and get better as the playoffs go. So that gives me some hope. But again, we are relying on hope. We are relying on them to flip a switch more so than, hey, these are confidence building blocks that we can at least say, hey, yeah, we're down right now, but we were down 15 against the Lakers and we came storming back. There hasn't been that in a meaningful way over this stretch.
No, there hasn't. But that's why all we can do is watch, keep looking for those signs, look for those little glimmers of light amid the fog of war that is March and early April basketball. And
that all important reminder that March basketball doesn't matter.
Yeah. So it's been a weird month, the podcast. I won't lie. because the team's been relatively successful in the win-loss column. It's just not seeing the things we want to see, and some of that's structural, some of that's effort, attention to detail, and
some of it's injuries.
Yeah, and a lot of it's injuries. That's what I meant by structural.
Gotcha.
But hopefully, for all we know, Justin, we will play this game in Golden State tomorrow, and then Jalen Tyson, Dean Wade will be marked as probable for the next home game on April 5th. We don't know, and we're not going to get to know, but it will be fun to see it all tested.
Well, I am getting ready to hop off of this, get some editing done while watching the Charge playoff game. And know who else is watching the Charge playoff game? Our guy, Jalen Tyson. He is courtside waving the towel.
By the way, we got a shout out. We had Tristan Aruno win G League player the most improved player.
That good note. We got so caught up with the Cavs stuff, I forgot about that. Really, really great accomplishment. The Charge have been fun in the opportunities I've had to tap in. So hopefully they can keep this going.
And Leron Fannin, executive of the year.
GM. Yeah, right.
Yeah, was executive of the year. So shouts to the G League team. Maybe we need to do a little digging with our friends at the org to see if we can talk to some of these folks and gas them up for the great work they did.
Well, I think that the Charge have been one of the constant success stories with the Cavs, right? With the ability for the Cavs to develop guys on the margins, have guys go down there and play, practice alongside them. I think that has been a secret weapon for the Cavs. Even, I was meaning to wrap this up, but even Tyrese Proctor coming back after a little bit of time off, you can just tell he's more comfortable and he's already had that development off.
I'm joining you on the he's going to be really good bandwagon.
It looks, this is crazy, but it does look a lot like Jalen Tyson last year when he started figuring things out, man.
There's a lot of stuff to work on.
So big out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to work on, but the stuff that he has is stuff that you don't often find, late second round picks to have.
Stuff you can't really teach. I'm very excited about him, and I think again, what the Charge have done has been a big part of powering the Cavs' success. So shout out to them. All the best. Hopefully they have a good playoff run. Hopefully the Cavs have a great playoff run, and we will try to have a great run for the rest of the regular season on this here podcast. Big thanks to everyone that tuned in live. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we're going live. If you're listening via podcast and you want to support us, leave us a rating, leave a review, subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and help cook those books. If you want to be part of Chase Down's exclusive Discord chat, send a screenshot of the review to chasedownpod@gmail.com. However you choose to support us, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. Until next time, go Cavs.